I went to Beverly Hills for Rodeo Drive, tried on the love bracelet. I had like budgeted for it. I'd saved for it for a really long time. And it was the biggest purchase that I'd ever made in my life. It was the most frivolous purchase that I'd ever made. And I want to talk about the real reason that I did it. Because honestly, the real reason is kind of sad. Hello and happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to a Molly Rambles video where I'm going to spill some tea because I feel, well, I'm also drinking tea. Look at how cute this mug is. It's like this textured, bubbly hearts for Valentine's Day. I'm obsessed. My boyfriend got it for me. Love you. Love you. Also, speaking of my boyfriend, over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Molly Burke, my exclusive Patreon video of the month is going up today, Valentine's Day, and it's the story time of how my boyfriend and I met. It's like an hour-long video. Just sit back, chill, and listen to our love story. That's tea. That's tea. So go watch that video, and you get so many other perks over there. We go live once a week. My boyfriend's live with me every single week, so you can get to know him more. So that's the place. Head over there. But today I am equally spilling some tea over on this channel because I feel like there's been this like theme lately of OG social media content creators, which I don't know. Look, I've been doing this for 10 and a half years. I feel like I can claim OG status at this point.
Claim your OG status.
Other people call me an OG, so like I'm claiming it for myself. I feel like there's been this trend. I feel like since TikTok almost got banned, where influencers started coming out and like being like, oh yeah, no, I lied about all this stuff. And I was like, honestly, I was just as shocked as the rest of you. I was like, I'm sorry. I've been out here doing real authentic videos this whole time, watching all of you thinking yours were real too, and yours weren't. I'm just as offended and aghast as you, okay? Aghast? Aghast. Aghast?
With a T, I think, yeah.
I'm just as gassy as you. I am no less gassy than the rest of you. Yeah, I am kind of honestly shook, but I do feel like pulling back the curtain on some things. None of what I will pull the curtain back on is like something like I did manipulatively. Like some of this stuff I'm like, whoa, you actually just manipulated your viewers. Like that's not okay. That's effed up. None of the stuff that I'm gonna share is like things that I intentionally did to be manipulative. It's things that were authentic to me in that moment. And as you age and you grow and you learn more about yourself and you do some introspection, you like look back and realize things. And you're like, oh. And that's what's so weird about growing up publicly on the internet, is you can watch a video of 22-year-old Molly, who 31-year-old Molly does not recognize. I'm like, who is that girl and what are her opinions? Because they be cray-cray. You know, and equally like 40-year-old Molly and 31-year-old Molly aren't gonna share the same opinions either. So it's fun to kind of sit down and share some things at 31 that like 25, 26-year-old Molly, she just had no idea. And I wanna talk about, here, can you take that? Thank you. The one and only, the icon herself, the Cartier love bracelet. Because according to YouTube, 4 years ago today, on Valentine's Day 2020, which wouldn't that be 5 years? I don't know why it says 4. 2020, 2021, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 years. So it's 5 years. YouTube says 4. 5 years ago today, I bought my Cartier love bracelet. During like the peak of the Cartier fandom for this love bracelet, when, you know, the Kylie Jenners of the world were wearing 6 on their wrists at a time, and just like all the it girlies had the Cartier love bracelet. And I made this video taking myself on a date for Valentine's Day. And I went to Beverly Hills for Rodeo Drive, tried on the love bracelet. I had like budgeted for it. I'd saved for it for a really long time. And it was the biggest purchase that I'd ever made in my life. It was the most frivolous purchase that I'd ever made. And I want to talk about the real reason that I did it. Because honestly, the real reason is kind of sad. And I also think it's an important thing to talk about. And the way that these influencers have been coming forward and spilling some tea they probably shouldn't be on themselves, but also like, girl, good, tell on yourself so we know you're not authentic. In the next year, I really want to talk about things that I've kept hidden, not out of shame or embarrassment or out of secrecy, but because I haven't known how to talk about them. Or they've been things that like I've just been on my own journey of trying to heal or what have you. Like in the coming year, I really want to start to get more honest and share 31-year-old Molly's perspective on some things that younger Molly went through. So definitely there's going to be more to come. Big stuff. That's all I'm saying. And this is where I want to start. I want to start, buying this Cartier love bracelet. Like it looked like, oh, influencer blows up, gets some money and blows her money, right? Like that's like really how it looked from the outside. But on the inside, I have struggled with money anxiety for as long as I can remember. Growing up knowing the statistics of unemployment in my community, which for me growing up in Canada was 80% unemployment of blind people, and then in America I believe it's currently 70 to 80% depending on the stat you look at. Growing up knowing that is absolutely terrifying. And it affects you in so many ways. Like that is its own trauma to live with, and you don't even realize how much it impacts you, but it really goes deep. And I've always been a driven person. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My mom has owned 2 businesses of her own. She was a photographer. She did weddings and family portraits. And then she was a gardener and she owned her own gardening company and she had little employees and they would go garden locally. And so I have that spirit. Like I've always had that like work hard mentality. Equally, like I was fortunate enough to grow up upper middle class. We were not by any means wealthy, but we were comfortable. We couldn't go on vacation every year, but we could go on vacation like once every 4 years, stuff like that. We never like struggled to pay bills, but it also wasn't like I could just have anything I ever wanted. It was like, yeah, for Christmas, you'll get the gifts. And then we went through some years of like not having the most financial security. My dad lost his job in the 2008 crash and went almost 2 years without employment. And he was really the main/only breadwinner technically, because even though my mom had a gardening business, that's seasonal because we lived in Canada, so that's like only really a spring, summer, kind of fall. Like spring you do opening of the garden, fall you do closing the gardens. Summer is really your bulk season for work, which is like 2 months long, so my dad was the main, like her money was the like fun money, her money was the extras money, her money was the Christmas money fund, her money that she made was our vacation fund, like saving up to go on a vacation in a couple of years, and then his money was the money that paid the like kind of day-to-day bills, the mortgage, the car payments, the groceries. Like that's just how my family dynamic worked. So I always knew that my parents had given me the best life possible, and I'm extremely lucky for that, but they also wouldn't be able to financially fund that life for me forever. I would have to be the one to take on my own bills and expenses. And they gave me a lifestyle that gave me something to aspire to. Like I wanted to know that I could afford to be comfortable. And sadly, being disabled, that's a luxury, because living on, for me growing up in Ontario, was ODSP, which is the Ontario Disability Support Plan or pension. I can't remember now. But ODSP, similar to what's it called in America? SSI? Social Security Insurance?
Oh, yeah.
Is really low. Like, you are barely getting your financial needs met, and there's all of these rules and restrictions. Like, you can only have $2,000 in your bank account at a time, and if you exceed that in assets, cut off. Yeah, because as if $2,000 of savings or assets is going to get you anywhere in life. It's literally a system designed to keep you in poverty, to keep you oppressed. Like that is a whole other issue that I could rant about forever. If you get married, guess what? Cut off. Like it's insane. Right, so now we're building a system that forces disabled people to financially rely on their partner, giving their partner a power over them. Like it is so messed up. This is why I say it's like it's its own trauma. Like having all of this on you as a burden and knowing these things from such a young age is like really so nuanced. It's a spider web of issues. I knew I would have to work hard to obtain that life for myself. And I knew I never wanted to have to rely on my family because I didn't want to put them under that pressure. Like ultimately my parents wouldn't be able to do that for me forever. So eventually it would have to be my brother. I didn't want my brother to have that pressure on him. I knew that relying on ODSP, which I have been on, like I did have to go on ODSP for periods of my younger life when I was starting out. I knew that would not, because of the rules and restrictions and because of the low income from it, that wouldn't allow me to afford the lifestyle that I was accustomed to and that I wanted to maintain for myself. And I didn't want a partner to have to do that for me. So I knew that ultimately like it would be on me. And unfortunately, we live in a world that's discriminatory of disabled people. And so working hard enough and getting education doesn't mean ish when you're disabled. Like you can have 5 degrees and work your butt off and still not get jobs that you are so deserving of, which again is its own issue. But knowing all of that was really stressful for me. So from a young age, I really wanted to start working. And in high school, I was like, how am I gonna like get a job like in high school? Everybody works at like a grocery store or a restaurant or like does these things that aren't going to be accessible to me as a blind person. So I ended up getting my first job eventually at the YMCA. And from the time I was 15 and got my first job, which is a whole other story, I paid for everything that was not necessity. Like from that moment on, my parents were set on teaching me how to save, how to allocate my money, how to spend it wisely, how to prioritize what I spend it on. So they would buy me like my Advil and my toothpaste and my underwear, and they'd pay for my dentist appointment. But if I wanted to like go to Aritzia and buy an expensive going out top for my birthday, I bought that. If I was going to Starbucks on the weekends with my friends, I paid for that. Like I paid for anything that I did not need, that was a want. And I really appreciate that they did that. And then when I was 18, I got my first full-time job. Chose not to go to college. Again, whole other story. I got a full-time job, moved out on my own. And from 18 on, I was responsible for everything. My parents did not financially support me. That was not mean. I am not like, boo, I was so hard done by, like as they should. I was an adult and I had a full-time job. And while my salary was absurdly low, that was on me. I had to navigate that. I had corporate health insurance, and so like I would submit my insurance claims, whatever my insurance didn't cover, I would pay the balance. I paid for all my guide dog's food. I paid for my Advil, my socks, and my toothpaste. I paid for my groceries every single week. And so just because I wanted it, budget became less because my I need it budget was now higher. And I was learning to adult. And I really appreciate that my parents did that for me. And so yeah, ever since then, I have financially been independent and on my own, which meant when I quit that job at 20 and became an entrepreneur, I did go back on ODSP. So I got ODSP when I was 18. I was on it briefly till I got my first full-time job. Then I was off of it because obviously. So I went back on ODSP at 20 until I was like making enough money, which as an entrepreneur takes a while. And my parents were nice enough to let me live like rent-free. So they weren't paying for things for me, but I was living rent-free under their roof and I was like eating the dinners they made and stuff like that. And then I still paid for kind of anything else that I needed out of my ODSP. So that's kind of like my financial background. When I started my business, I started my YouTube channel, I started booking my own speaking. YouTube did not make me money for a very long time. I started my channel at 20. I started making some money at 23, I think. And that's around when I moved to LA and my channel kind of, quote, took off, blew up, whatever you want to say. I had been posting consistently for years without really gaining like traction or having enough success to make income. And then once I did, I was making like a small amount of income. And then like fairly quickly, that small amount of income became like a pretty decent amount of income, like more than I was ever used to making. But equally, I was so aware that it could go as quick as it came. Like that I could be the one hit wonder of YouTube, that all these views could disappear, that the adpocalypse could happen. Like, cause I was a part of the adpocalypse. Like I was a creator when that happened. And that was actually when I was blowing up, was when the adpocalypse happened. When YouTubers were like getting demonetized at this like really high rate and creators, the views they were getting no longer correlated to how much their income was because of ads being pulled and stuff and certain channels getting demonetized for certain content. And so even though I was making a good amount of money, I was still like really lean. Like I was still financially struggling in many ways and having to live like a pretty tight budget without any like just for funds. It was mostly necessities, which did at times include necessities for content, like props that I needed to make Instagram content or YouTube videos. And even that was honestly hard to make myself buy. And I was getting to the point where I was like making a good income. It's never gonna be sustainable, right? Like some months you make more, some months you make less. So any entrepreneur knows this song and dance, like the months you make less, the months you make more, you like save for the months you make less to keep the balance. You always live at the level of your lowest income month. And so that's how I was living. it got to the point where I was limiting my own comfort and potential because I wouldn't spend money on things that would help grow my business. I wouldn't spend money on things that would allow me to be healthier and happier because I was so scared to spend money. Because I was so scared that this was the only money I would have to live on for the rest of my life. Because I was acutely aware that if this all disappeared, I might never get another job. I had never been to college. And like, yes, university is always there, but I still had no idea what I would do if I wanted to go back to college or needed to. And equally, because I always wanted to work in media. Like this was the dream, right? Is working in media. So like if this disappeared, I didn't have a backup dream. So I didn't even know what I would go to college for. And even if I did, as I said, like I have so many friends in this community that are so deserving of work and don't get it, despite how many degrees they have, despite how qualified they are, because of discrimination, because of ableism. So I was so aware that no matter how hard I worked, it still might turn to nothing, and I still might have to be somebody who lives on SSI, who lives on ODSP. And I want to be so clear, there is no shame in living on that because it is not your fault. It is the fault of a society that does not set you up for success. And I am not here being like, I wasn't living on ODSP because I worked hard. No, I deserve my success because I worked for it, but equally, I'm lucky. And I will never understand why I got to be the chosen one who got this lucky, but I am, and all I can do with that is try to uplift my community and try to help other people who are still not as fortunate. But I was like so scared to spend money. I was like crippled by fear of money because having it now meant I could lose it. And like I said, like this might be the only money I live on forever. And that's really scary. And so it got to the point where I would like meet with my dad because he helped, like that was his role in my business, was like he'd help with the finances because I've never been a math girly. So he would help like paying off the credit card bills and like invoicing brands when I did a brand deal and stuff like that. So we would have a call every month and he would tell me how much was in my bank account, how much I earned, how much I spent, how much my credit card bill was, how much my monthly expenses were, and how much like was still pending like from companies that hadn't paid. Because sometimes companies don't pay for 3 or even 6 months, you know, so it can be a long time till from when you do the brand deal to when the income actually hits your account. So he would go through all of that with me to try to make me feel comfortable that like I was okay, I was safe, I was financially going to be okay for another month. And then it became this idea of like, okay, like can you push yourself to not spend recklessly, but like spend the money you're making because you're working hard to make it and you deserve to spend some of it. You know, like, and to learn that if you spend this money, you're not gonna be poor overnight. Like you can do this and it's not gonna make or break you. So I started doing little things, like when I hit 1 million subscribers, I bought some stuff from Gucci. And that was really big for me because it said Blind for Love, it had a B, and it had the double G for Gypsy and Gallop. You know, so that like, had all this meaning. So I was like, okay, I can justify this. 1 million is a huge number. I can spend a couple $1,000s on something that I do not need, but is a want, and like celebrates this milestone. And I did it, and guess what? I wasn't broke, everything was fine, and I had this thing that felt really special. And then the love bracelet became the thing, the it girl thing. And I've always been a jewelry lover, specifically rings has always been my thing. I've been collecting the rings that I wear every day since I was 15. Got this at 15, this at 16, this at 19, this at 20. So yeah, I've been collecting these for a long time, and because I'm allergic to sterling silver, I can only wear solid gold, which is expensive, which is why my stuff has been collected over many years, and I wear it religiously. And I didn't have any bracelets. And I was like, wait, okay, this is a bracelet that never comes off, which I tried to never take my jewelry off because I don't want to lose it. And it'll live on my wrist, and it's like this special piece and has this history behind it. And I like loved the idea of like, okay, it's like you lock it on to represent like love and blah, blah, blah. I liked the ideas. Like I enjoyed the history and the stories. But more than that, and this is where it gets a little sad, I was at this point in my career, I was 25, 26, and I was going to these red carpets, and I was going, you know, the Streamy Awards, the Shorty Awards, the all these PR parties, and I was with all these top content creators. You know, I did all the collabs, and I'm like, around all of these people who I grew up watching and idolizing and dreaming of being like, and then I was them. But I still did not feel like I was. I did not feel like I deserved to be there. Like I deserved to be in these rooms. And I felt like everybody was looking at me and thinking that too. And I felt like that because no matter how much I like earned my right to be there, I was the only disabled person there. Like I was the only openly, visibly disabled person there whose disability was like a part of their platform. It just felt like I was like out of place. Like I was the misfit who was like looked at like, oh, like with pity, like, oh, you're just lucky to be here, you know? And that like sucks. It's like such an awful feeling to feel like you've worked so hard for something to achieve your dream and you're living it and you still like have this imposter syndrome. Like everybody's looking at you like, poor blind girl, like you're this handout. And it's not like, and maybe it was only my internal feeling, right? Like, I don't know if anybody actually thought that in those rooms or not. Like nobody said that to me. Nobody made me outwardly feel that way, but definitely like a lot of creators, they wouldn't talk to me. You know, like a lot of the beauty lifestyle girlies that I loved, like I would try to make friendships and they like would ignore me. And like, it's fine. They had their friendships. They didn't want to or need a new friend. And like, it is what it is. But like, it was moments like that that made me be like, oh, like I'm still not meant to be here. They don't see me as being one of them, even though I finally feel like I am. I finally feel like I've worked my whole life to get to feel like one of these girls, and they're still making me feel like I'm not. I've battled so much my whole life with like wanting to fit in and like wanting to feel accepted because I've been bullied so much and I like moved schools so many times to try to like have friends because I'm a bubbly, outgoing, social person. Like I'm an extrovert. And it sucks when you're an extrovert and bubbly and social and other people treat you like an outcast and exclude you. Because you're like, wait, but I really want to be a part of it. And I tried so many times in different ways in my life to fit in. To like do the things the popular girls do to make the popular girls finally like me and see me as one of them. And it never worked. And I felt like I had learned that lesson when I was like in my teenage years and I leaned into being myself and like authenticity and it had worked for me. Like I made new friends and I got my first boyfriend and I had a successful career and all of a sudden for some reason, now that I was finally in these circles, like I forgot that lesson. And I think sometimes we all have lessons we need to learn multiple times before it sticks. And I was finding myself in that place again where this message, I had learned it, but it didn't stick. It had stuck for so long, but now I was back in this like wanting the popular girls to like me and wanting to feel like I deserved to be there. The reality is I bought this bracelet not because I was like this hotshot influencer who had $7,000 to blow, but because I wanted to feel like I was one of them. And I wanted to like spend money that I'd earned to no longer fear spending money. And I wanted to buy this so that every time I walked into one of these influencer parties or red carpet events, they saw this on my wrist and they knew, like, okay, she's earned it. She's one of us. She deserves to be here. And that's so sad. And like, I wear this every day still because I spent freaking $7,000 on it. That is like so many times my rent. My rent is $1,500 a month. This is so much more than my rent. So I'm not gonna take this off. But do I regret it? Yes and no. I regret it because if I had $7,000 to spend on a bracelet today, I'd buy the bracelet I like, not the bracelet I think I'm supposed to wear. And I'm not like everybody else, and I never have been, and I don't care to be. I don't want a black and white influencer home. I want a home filled with color and thrifted furniture and retro vibes. I don't want a minimalistic wardrobe. I want over-the-top maximalism. I don't want like a figure-flattering outfit. I want something comfy because that's me. And I don't care if other people look at me and see a Louis Vuitton logo and know that I like have the it girl bag. I'm gonna buy this like cool bag from this Japanese designer that costs just as much as that Louis Vuitton, but nobody freaking knows it because that's not why I bought it. I bought it because I like it, not because I'm trying to tell people I have money, not because I'm trying to tell people I fit in and I deserve to be there. I'm sad that I ever felt that way, but it sucks that that's the way disabled people feel so often. that we fear our financial security, that we have to feel like we're lucky and we don't deserve things, that we live with imposter syndrome, that we walk into important rooms and feel like we don't deserve to be there because we don't see ourselves. And I think ultimately what really helped was the fact that in the pandemic, TikTok blew up, not for me, but for my community. For the first time, I was finally seeing so many other disabled influencers. Whether they were blind or not, I was seeing so many other disabled content creators like blowing up. And finally, I now go to events and I'm not the only disabled person in the room. And that's such a good feeling. I started this so that one day other people could see themselves. And now they see many of themselves. And if they don't resonate with me, they find a version of a blind influencer who they do resonate with. And that's what I want. That's the world I want to live in. Would I buy this today? No. I wouldn't. But I'm not going to take it off because I spent the money and this is a part of my story. And this is a part of my journey. And this will always remind me of where I've been and where I don't want to go again. I've compromised myself too many times to make other people happy. So that's the real reason I bought the Cartier Love bracelet. And it's very different than the reason I portrayed. It's very different than the reason I told myself. But I know now that ultimately that's the truth. That's why I did it. And there you have it. Not everything is as it seems. Life is about growing and learning and always working to be better. And I feel like in the last 5 years I've done that. And I hope in the next 5 years I continue to do that. And I hope you continue to be on this journey with me. I appreciate you so much. And until next time, you can click over here to watch me go car shopping because I might buy my first car. And guess what? I'm not buying a bougie fancy influencer car. I'm doing my research. I'm trying to make a financially wise decision because this income might be the only money I have to live on for the rest of my life. Or you can click over here and watch another Molly Rambles. I love you guys.